Judson, a tree climber out of Burlington, Vermont, and this video is going to be a beginner's guide to the RAD system, the equipment needed, and how to set it up on a rope for recreational tree climbing or other uses. I had put up just a demonstration doing an ascent on this system in the spring, and I got a lot of views and some comments and some questions on breaking down the gear. So this is the first climbing system I ever learned. Would highly recommend it. The RAD system, sometimes referred to as the yo-yo system, but the RAD is an acronym for Rapid Ascent Descent, and it's just a really reliable system, and particularly using the Petzl Gree-Gree, it works really well on 9mm ropes, which allows you, if you're like me and you're hiking in the backcountry, just to keep your pack weight down. You're using fatter, more arborist ropes, they can get pretty bulky and heavy in a hurry. So I really like this system, and I'm going to break down everything you see here and then how to get going with it. Okay, so at the top you have a hand ascender, and then clipped on the bottom is a foot loop. This is made out of a cord and then a webbing at the bottom, but sometimes they're all webbing. You can make one yourself, really simple. This is an adjustment right here. So that allows you, so the RAD system is a sit-stand technique. So because this is connected to the ascender, and the hand ascender is a rope grab, this grabs the rope when you pull down so you can stand into it, and then the Gree-Gree is going to capture your progress and then be your belay device. So back to the top here, the ascender, the foot loop, and then yeah, the Petzl Gree-Gree, phenomenal device. And then so this rope comes down through the Gree-Gree, back up through this pulley. You can set this up without the pulley. It can just go straight through the carabiner, but this makes it smoother and more efficient. You'll definitely feel a difference. So I'm gonna take this system off the rope and then show you how to put it on piece by piece. But just real quick, for those curious, a good hand ascender, this is by Black Diamond. Petzl makes them. Lots of arborist gear companies make them. They're all great. They're gonna be like $80 to $100 for this. You can use other styles of rope grabs, but I would recommend this. It gives you more options and it just functions really well. About 30 bucks for a pulley. These two carabiners don't need to be fancy. They can just be a standard spring gate. They don't have to be locking. They're not life support. So let's say $15 per carabiner. And then this particular foot cord is $40. The webbing version, which I have right here, is $35. It's just a little bulkier, also adjustable. Or you can make your own quite easily. So that's 30-40 bucks. And then you've got the Gree-Gree at the bottom. I believe it's around $100. And you can also set up this RAD system with the Petzl rig, which is a bigger version with some additional features. And so if I was doing tree work with this system, I would use the RAD. But for backcountry rec climbing, I use the Gree-Gree. But they get set up the exact same way, and maybe I'll talk about the rig a little bit later. And then you definitely want a locking carabiner for clipping in your Gree-Gree to your harness, preferably a double locking, but a screw gate is just fine. So $25 for a good locking carabiner. And then this is a left-handed ascender, which I'm right-handed, and the left is my preferred setup. They do make it in a right orientation, and it's just personal feel. You can use both in any configuration, whether you're putting your foot loop on your left or right side, or using this with your left or right hand. If I had to just choose one for general use, I really like the left-handed version best. So I'm going to pull this off really quick and then put it back on. So the way I'm taking it off is also the way you would disassemble it once you get to the top of your climb and you're going to rappel down. Petzl does not want you to use the gree-gree without a hand on the tail of the rope at all times. So a safety way is just take a bite of rope and do an overhand knot. And then you can officially go hands-free, because what happens if you were to go into a free fall, your knot is going to catch in the system and you're not going anywhere. There's other ways to lock it off manually, but so that'll let you go hands-free. So always put a knot in when you get to the top and you're transitioning into the tree. And we can talk about lanyards another time. So once the knot is in, I'm taking the pulley off. And then I'm taking the ascender off. And you actually can rappel with these in place, but you can only rappel like 2 or 3 feet, and then you need to reach up and manually pull this down the line, rappel a little further, pull it down. So if you just want to do a quick rappel out, you just take this gear off. And I should just say, if you're teaching yourself and you're a beginner, just start low to the ground. I mean, my rope's tied in like less than 15 feet up. Like, this is a good height. You can practice all your techniques low to the ground. You're going to be safe. And yeah, so next, anyway, I'm going to show you how to install this all on the rope. So once you get your rope installed, and I'm not going to cover setting your rope, there's a lot of other videos on YouTube for that. And I actually have one on my channel too, if you look around. So the first thing I do is pop my ascender on. It doesn't really matter what order you do. So that goes on. In theory, you can use it like this. Again, this piece of equipment is not life support, and it's not going to come off. But in theory, if a branch hit this, it could open it up and it could pop off in an extreme situation. So by putting the carabiner in here, this traps the rope, and there's no way it can open up. I mean, it can open up into a free fall if a branch hit it, but you're not going to lose that off the rope. So then I'm going to put on my gree-gree here. So this just swings open. So the rope you're climbing up is always going to come in the left side of this, and it's going to come out the right. You close it up and clip it in. And then capture the tail of your rope with the pulley, and then bring that up to your carabiner on the top of your ascender. Put that in like that. And the system's all set now. So this is it. So I'm going to clip into my belay loop. So this is an arborist saddle. This is the Petzl Sequoia. So I have a bridge and a ring, but I also have a belay loop, which a lot of you, if you're starting out, you might just be climbing with a rock climbing harness, which is what I did. And a belay loop's actually phenomenal because it's close. It doesn't ride up. A lot of arborist bridges and rings might sit this high, and you can't get as long of a pull. You can't travel as efficiently up the rope. So having it low is good. So I'm clipping into the belay loop here, and then push the ascender up and pull out any slack. And so what the gree-gree does is this captures your progress, and then it's also the belay device. So it's a good practice to jump up, sit into your system, bounce around a little bit just to verify you're tied into a nice strong point. So mine feels good. The last piece is just the foot loop. So that clips into the bottom of the ascender here. And then this just slips over whichever foot you want to use. Okay. So from here, you push the ascender up basically as high as you can reach, or as high as is comfortable for your leg. And then this is a sit-stand technique. So right now you're gonna stand. You're gonna step into the foot loop. At the same time, you're gonna whether you're holding here or here, I actually prefer to hold above the rope. It keeps my body more vertical, which is more efficient, and the palm of my hand can just rest on the top of this. So I'm going to be pulling with that arm while I step up, and then this, which is tending my slack, is also, because of this 3-to-1 mechanical advantage, is also propelling me up the rope. So this will be a little awkward for you at first, but it'll get really smooth over time. So I'm going to be doing all 3 of those things at once. So here I go, up and sit. Repeat, sit. I'm going to come back down really quick. So this is how you rappel with it all in place. You just have to rappel a little bit at a time, and it is totally doable. All right, I'm going to go up to the top of this, and then I'm going to rappel down. So one thing to keep in mind, if you can climb close to the trunk of the tree, keeping your free foot on it will keep you oriented. Otherwise, if you're away from it, you're going to be swinging around, and you can still get up, but you might get a little dizzy. It's just a little annoying. So I'm unfortunately going to be turning my back to you a little bit as I head up here, but just going to demonstrate the technique and come back down. Okay, so slightly different camera angle here. So again, I'm going to do this really slow, but push your ascender all the way up, or until the angle of your leg maxes out what's comfortable, and then 3 things at once. You're going to pull down here as you step into this and use as much of your thigh muscle as you can, and then you're going to be pulling down on the tail of the rope at the same time. And just repeat. So this is the sit I'm in right now, and here is the stand. I'm in the sit, stand, so I'm going to show you how to rappel without taking this off. I would recommend taking the foot loop off. That's just going to be awkward, and if you're coming down, you don't need it. So just throw this on your harness. So you can rappel, but you'll get to a point where you can no longer reach this. So just rappel down 2 or 3 feet, however long your arm is, and then you just open up the cam and it slides down the rope until you release the cam and it bites back off. So you're just gonna alternate. And this, for a pure beginner, this is gonna feel a lot more comfortable and safe your first few times climbing, particularly rappelling. There's more friction in the system here, there's more to grab, and just psychologically having this gear in front of you is going to bolster your confidence more than just having a single line of rope and the gree-gree. And so I'm back down here. I'm going to show that again. So this time I'm going to demonstrate how quickly you can do this. A lot of people think this is a really slow, archaic system, and it's really not. Compared to arborist body thrusting and just other techniques, this can be, it's not the fastest system out there. Rope walking is quicker, but this can be pretty quick. So here we go. Also wanted to show another way you can use this system. Say you're up in the tree, you take your foot loop off, and you find you actually need to go higher again, but it's just a short climb, and you don't want to put the foot loop back on, or maybe you drop it. Because you have 3-to-1 mechanical advantage here, you can actually do what's called hip thrusting. So put your ascender up as high as it'll go, and then both feet on the trees, and then you're going to grab the tail of your rope up high and raise your hips and pull that in, and just repeat. Advance your ascender. Requires more upper body strength, but totally doable, and particularly, you know, just for short advances up the line, very easy to do. So the first thing I do is take off my foot loop, just clip it back on your harness. And I take my pulley off. Rack that on the harness, and then take the carabiner out and pop off your ascender, and then just clip that back onto your harness. So now, while holding the rope, undo your knot, your stopper knot, and then you're ready to rappel. So for this, I'll show you when I get down a little bit further. So for the gree-gree, you have this handle here. It doesn't really engage until about 90 degrees. Just slowly pull it, and you'll feel yourself creeping down. You're tending the rope with your free hand as well. So I can open this all the way and break with this hand too. So you just have control. Two ways to control it. I just wanted to show you, so this is just a standard rock climbing harness. This one's made by Camp. The nice thing about these things is they're so small and compact and lightweight. So this is the Pets of Sequoia. This is so much smaller and lighter. I mean, it's like 1/10 of the weight and can fit in any size pack. And then I have other harnesses that are even bigger than this. So, but this gives you your belay loop. You won't have any side rings, which are for lanyard attachments and other options. But for just going up and then coming down, yeah, just start with this. Really simple. It won't be as comfortable to sit in, because there's very minimal padding compared to these bigger pads that are quite comfortable. But yeah, so all you need to get started: helmet, harness. I would recommend a 9 or 10 millimeter static rope. You want static because it has little stretch to it. Climbing ropes are dynamic and have, like, I think 30-something% stretch. So if you take a fall, it acts like a rubber band and allows you to survive that fall. But if you were to try doing this climbing technique on that, you would just be bouncing up and down. So you want this as static. This is like 1.5% elongation. So 9 or 10 millimeter rope. I got started with just, I think, like an 80-foot piece of rope. And yeah, I think definitely keep it under 30 feet if you're a beginner, maybe even under 20. You know, so harness, helmet, rope, and then the components of the RAD system. And then there are other videos for how to set your rope up in the tree, but basically there's a throw weight. It's basically a bean bag filled with lead shot, you attach it to this thin string, and you can throw it up over a branch, do a grenade throw, or you can do this pendulum style throw. So it goes up and over the branch, back down. You then tie it onto the end of your rope, and you pull your rope up and over, and then you tie off an anchor either around the base of the tree or you set a canopy anchor. Lots of videos online for how to install a rope in a tree. I actually have one on my channel if you poke around. But yeah, the beauty of the RAD system with the gree-gree is this is designed for 9mm ropes, which is great. So my pack, when I go into the backcountry climbing, I have a 150-foot rope and everything I need, and my pack weighs about 25 pounds. To use more arborist equipment and do rope walking, which is a little faster and more sophisticated, that requires a fatter rope, which is bulkier and heavier, and there's more gear. There's a foot ascender and a knee ascender, a chest harness, a few other things. So that same 150-foot kit for rope walking weighs 40 pounds. So the 25 pounds versus 40 feels very different. And I have my back gets achy, and yeah, hiking with 40 pounds isn't fun for me, whereas 25 pounds is very comfortable. So that's why I like doing this. Again, you can do this complete system with the Petzl rig, which does really well on bigger ropes. It has you can go hands-free with it. It has an auto locking feature. And then another feature is if you're changing ropes up in the tree, you can actually open up the unit without having to unclip from your harness, whereas this one you can't, which is why I have this accessory clip here that I installed just so there's no way to drop it up in the tree. But this is a great system. Either one works great. Technically, the gree-gree is a little more efficient. This is a longer piece of hardware, so you can't quite get as long of a pull when you're ascending. It's not a big deal, but technically the gree-gree you can just travel a little bit further with each pull. Yeah, I think this is around 200 bucks, and it's, you know, heavier duty, probably definitely more confidence inspiring, particularly for beginners. But it's heavier, it's bulkier, it's more expensive, and if you're a rock climber, you probably already have all the equipment to make the gree-gree system work. So yeah, I think that's it for now. Feel free to comment or send me any questions. But yeah, despite the popularity of other climbing systems, like, this is still relevant. It's still a go-to for me. So I rec climb. I also rescue cats that get stuck in trees. I will use this system. I recently had to go up to Stowe, Vermont to recover a drone that a tourist had crashed into the top of this pine tree. So I had a 85-foot climb, and I had a steep 10-minute hike to get there. So normally I'm just in someone's backyard for a cat or drone rescue, and I don't mind having my other gear, which is heavier, but for the hike, it was so nice just having a lightweight option. Again, staying to around 25 pounds pack weight, and the hike in wasn't a big deal at all. And then I do some tree work as well. Never used the gree-gree for tree work, at least it's not as your climbing system. I would use the Petzl rig for tree work, and then I also climb on a hitch and a rope wrench and a Petzl zigzag, some other fancier multi-hitches. Yeah, this was my first climbing system, and I still use it. Even though I have thousands of dollars of fancier gear, I still come back to this regularly. Almost weekly I'm on this system, and it's a great way to get started, and just really reliable. A lot you can do with it, and I'm a huge fan of it. Never had a single incident. Never had the gree-gree slip on me. Works well in wet conditions as well. I climb in the winter, no big deal. Can't speak for icy ropes, but in the winter everything's cold, the snow doesn't stick to your rope. And then polyester ropes, I think, don't generally draw in moisture the way other materials might. But yeah, very low cost. I think I did the math once, and you could probably get started if you didn't own any of this stuff. Complete beginner kit for around 600 bucks, give or take 100. Whereas, yeah, I mean, just for reference, like a professional arborist saddle alone might cost you $700. So very, very practical, and yeah, it's just a great system, the RAD system.